and we will start off with a big home game for the Bulldogs to open up October against the Alabama Crimson Tide. The Tide coming off an 11-4 season, reached the SEC championship game after a 10-2 regular season, but lost to Georgia. Went to the college football playoff, went on the road, beat Oklahoma, came back from, I think, down 17 in that game, but then lost in embarrassing fashion to the eventual national champions, Indiana Hoosiers, out of the Rose Bowl. Kind of got bludgeoned in that game. And now you go into year 3 for Kalen DeBoer. And look, he just got a massive new contract, got extended, got a big buyout that has not been given to him, but would have to be given to him should something happen. It seems prohibitive. I tend to think it's prohibitive from him, barring a total collapse. I would imagine DeBoer would be back. But we also know that if Alabama's not a playoff team this year, some pitchforks are going to start to come out because of the way things operate in Tuscaloosa. So there's a lot of pressure around DeBoer and the Tide to deliver a big year. And it's a year you kind of go in with some questions for them. They are 90th in returning production according to SP+. Preseason win total of just 8.5. Now, when you actually look at the win totals across the SEC, no one says the highest is 9.5. That's a tie between Georgia and Texas. It's just a consequence of tougher conferences. The odds of more losses pile up. But an 8.5 win total for Alabama, I mean, if they go 8-4, how are people going to feel about that? SP Plus projects the Tide as the number 11 team in the country, so has them up high, but also projects an average number of wins of 8. So again, it's a weird time when we talk about Alabama. Alex had our breakdown for the Tide. We follow the same format as we did a week ago. So what do we need to know about Alabama going into year 3 under DeBoer?
Yeah, Alabama. DeBoer's coming off his best season so far at Alabama. So far, he's 20-8, and then 12-4 in the SEC. They were the number 1 team in the SEC last year. After that embarrassing loss to Florida State, and they had to run the table, which they did, to get to the SEC championship game. Like you said, they had to beat Oklahoma in a rematch, first round, came back down big, and then got absolutely destroyed by Indiana, the eventual national champions. One big thing from last year that is the biggest question mark is like a lot of surprising for a lot of these blue blood teams that historically have been great at running the ball. They were not good at running the ball. They was the 123rd and last year in the FBS. I mean, not in the FBS, in the FBS. And the big thing coming in, they have a talented freshman running back that has a chance to play in EJ Crowell. It's big. He's already got college size, 5'11", 224. He had a sub 11-second 100 meters, so he's big and he's fast, and they're looking at him as being maybe helping with that run game. The biggest storyline with them is the QB battle with Austin Mack. He's been in that DeBoer offense, I think going on his 4th year, and then the talented freshman and Keelan Russell. I mean, looking at his scouting report coming out, a lot of the comparisons were Jaden Daniels. So that's the type of talent we're talking about with Keelan Russell. He played at Duncanville in Texas, one of the historically great teams, one of those teams in Texas. They play great talent, and he was on a very talented team. He started as a sophomore, so it's definitely a guy who he knows how to handle like pressure. He's been starting at a big time program in Texas since he was young. So it would not be surprising if he starts that he out the gate he's dominate. Key returning players, it was hard to choose because they do have a lot, but I try to keep it down to 3. Ryan Coleman Williams, I know he had some struggles last year. He led the FBS in drops with 13, but he definitely has a talent. He's bulked up a little bit. I think he's close to 190. If he can fix the drops and fix the mental mistakes, then he definitely has the talent to be up there. Like when we're talking NFL draft season, be up there in a tier with like J.J. Smith and Cam Coleman. I think he's that talented. I may be a little bit higher on him as some people, but I mean he showed as a freshman when he was like, obviously we know he was 17 dominating. It's just consistency.
He should be getting ready for his prom right now. You got to hear that every single week.
Did you know this kid is only 17? He should be in high school. Well, yeah, he's definitely has a talent, incredible speed, incredible quickness and body control. Definitely a talented player. If he can just be more consistent and keep out the mental drops, and then be more consistent down the stretch, because that was a theme his freshman year where he got to a hot start and then kind of faded as the season went along. If he can keep that up the whole season, he's definitely going to be a problem. Another receiver is Latsir Brooks, who he kind of was a young guy, and then as Ryan Williams was having his struggles, he kind of stepped in. He actually had a big game. His biggest game was in the playoffs against Alabama, where he had 2 touchdowns, 5 receptions for around 90 yards. So definitely a player to watch. And then obviously Savion Brown, former 5-star cornersman, starting since his true freshman year. Definitely a big play machine, somebody we got to watch out for. Had 2 pick sixes last year. So yeah, the players that were they're returning are definitely was like big time players. Breakout players, whoever wins, I think, in my opinion, whoever wins the QE paddle, I think they're going to break out. I mean, they have kind of different skill sets. Also, Max a little bit bigger, a little taller, strong arm. He's not a statue by any means, but he's not the type of like dynamic athlete as Keelan Russell. Keelan Russell, he is tall, but he's kind of has a slight frame. Definitely really athletic, but he's not. I can see the Jaden Daniels comp. Just look at him. He's not like one read and rush guy. He's definitely looking to pass first, and then he's going to use his athleticism to pass, and then probably run at the last. It's going to be the last option. But when he runs, he is very dangerous in the open field. And then another guy that played a little bit as a freshman, Michael Carroll. He had like 5 starts, especially at right tackle. I think they're going to move him to guard now, so he's definitely one of the players that they're counting on to help fortify that O-line. Caleb Woodson, talented transfer from Virginia Tech, played linebacker. He has a very interesting background. Used to be a competitive swimmer when he was younger, from 6 to 14. He's one of those guys that's like he's willing to do whatever to get on the field. Like when he was going through camps, he was originally going to camps as a receiver, and when he went to camps, the receiver and DB line was too long, so he said, I'll just play defense. And from there, he was a defensive guy. Started at Virginia Tech as a safety, moved to linebacker in that Brent Pry defense. And then last year, he had a breakout season, 58 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 1 pass deflection in 9 games. He's definitely one of those transfers they're counting on to make a big impact on their defense, since they lost some linebacker. They lost some linebacker to either the portal or just they ran out of eligibility. EJ Correll, the freshman running back I mentioned, he's definitely a breakout star. He's in competition for playing time at the running back. He's very explosive, very big. He's already has college ready size at 5'11", 224. And then there's other players to watch. I'll just mention Sadarian Morgan, another big receiver who's getting a little bit hype, but he's still a young player. Dijon Lee, the talented cornerback who took over. Then he got playing time as a freshman, and then he eventually took over that starting cornerback spot from another guy who was, he was struggling a little bit, but he still was talented enough to get drafted by the NFL, Damani Jackson. Terrence Green, D lineman, transfer from Oregon. The big theme for Alabama this year was they were trying to get bigger bodies on the O-line and D-line. And then you can't really go wrong with getting an Oregon transfer. It wasn't like he's not one of those guys where it's like he transferred out because he wasn't going to play. He definitely was going to be in that Oregon rotation. It was just Oregon's returning so much on that D-line. So he definitely is going to play a bigger role at Alabama. Noah Rogers, another receiver they think could replace the role of Isaiah Horton, just a big body X receiver. And then Ty Haywood, another young offensive lineman. He transferred in from Michigan, who's in competition for playing time. For the biggest strengths and weaknesses on offense, they are very talented at the wide receiver position. But outside of Coleman Williams and Latsir Brooks and Noah Rogers, a little of the talent could be a little bit unproven, but they're definitely they've stacked top 5, top 3 recruited classes ever since Caleb DeBoer's tenure. So they definitely have talent in that receiver position. Biggest question mark is definitely going to be O-line. Yeah. There's even talks of a guy from state that he's in competition for a tackle position, which just says how much they're going to restructure their O-line. I know they've talked about, I think Jackson Lord's going to start at the guard position, but really it's just one person who started major snaps coming back, and that's Michael Carroll, like I mentioned. So their O-line's definitely a big question mark, and with the running game, like that's going to be big. Even in some of the board's offenses wasn't really. I wouldn't say the running game wouldn't be emphasized, but it's more just like being more consistent in the running game for them. Now their defense, biggest strengths on defense, I think probably they're going to have the best secondary in the SEC and maybe top in the country. I mean, they're returning Dijon Lee, talented 6'4", 6'5" corner. Xavier Brown, always big play machine. Probably the best safety tandem in the SEC and maybe in the country with Keon Sabb and Bray Hubbard. And they did lose a lot of linebacker, but they are confident in who they're bringing back with Yonze Pierre as a pass rusher type and then Caleb Woodson stepping in for a big role. And then D-line, they did lose. I mean, they lost some players on the D-line, but they're really excited about London Simmons. I mean, people from Mississippi will be familiar with him, played at Hartfield Academy. He was rated as a little kind of a 3-star player, but he was a player they saw a lot of potential in, and he got his body right quick. And he actually played the second most snaps as a true freshman behind the talented corner Dijon Lee. So they're expecting him to take a big step up. Really, the big thing about Alabama is they're going to have a very talented defense. That Kane Womack defense is going to be very talented. Defense could end up being one of the top in the SEC. It's really the big questions are going to be on offense. If that offensive line hasn't improved, then there's something that teams can take advantage of. And with their QB battle, Austin Mack and Keelan Russell, they bring different elements to the offense. I mean, Austin Mack has been in the offense longer. Keelan Russell is definitely more talented. So right now, if I had to choose, I would lean with maybe them going with Keelan Russell, especially with the question marks they had in the running game. Keelan Russell's legs could help them with that. But even if they have Austin Mack, I still can see him just being a high quality or even NFL caliber distributor with all the talent they have at receiver. So yeah, this is definitely a game. I know Andrew, I mentioned this is definitely a game that there's a good chance that we have an upset with, and if we do that, it's just because their O-line is just not up to par to what Alabama fans are used to, and then maybe they're still having issues with their quarterback. Even though their receivers are talented, I don't have they don't really concern me with our secondary. I think it'll be a pretty decent matchup, but it's definitely if their O-line is still a question mark and they can't run the game and it's just they're relying on the quarterbacks, I feel confident that maybe we could upset them with going against the Zach Arnett defense and maybe confusing those first-year starters.
Yeah, it seems crazy to say, but if we're going to just go ahead and jump to something we'd probably talk about at the end, but we could say it here. Of these 4 games, the one that State's most likely to win is almost by default Alabama, which sounds so crazy to say because of what you expect from the Tide and just the way that series has gone for State so many times over the years. And maybe I'm discounting them too much here, but when you consider the games played in Starkville, still early in the season when Bama has very real questions on that offense. Like you mentioned, the receiving core incredibly talented. And I would say, you talk about their matchup with the secondary, they're best at receiver. If they hit their ceiling, they're going to win that matchup. Because I think overall, I love Kelly Jones, love Isaac Smith, and I love the pieces there around them. But I think talent-wise, Bama would have the overall edge. They'd be able to find matchups somewhere. But it's questionable. Is Coleman Williams going to get back to being the player that we thought? Noah Rogers is not going to be ready to play. That's one of the things with Rogers. He's been banged up and been hurt. Yeah. So, he's probably missing at least half the season. Sedarian Morgan, they're super excited about, but it's a true freshman. Latier Brooks, came on strong down the stretch out of the slot. So, but they also, tight end is a big question mark for them. Tight end, they threw to Josh Cuevas quite a bit last season. They don't have him this year. So, you look at that and the quarterback battle. Again, I agree it's going to be Russell, probably because of the legs. I'm not sold that O-line is suddenly just going to be fixed. Yeah. And I guess we shouldn't say that when we're in the same position as Mississippi State fans, but I'm not sold Mississippi State's offensive line is suddenly going to be dominant. I think State's offensive line can get to a point of competence. I think Alabama's line can get to a point of competence. And I will say, to be fair, Bama did bring in more proven pieces than State ultimately did up front. But there still seems to be concerns about their ability to run the football. And again, the running backs that are there, Daniel Hill is probably their best option of the guys returning. That's JJ's older brother. Yeah. Showed some flashes last year, but there was question about their running back room in terms of having guys they felt they needed to go, they had Hollywood Smothers committed. The guy we're going to talk about later when we talk about Texas. They felt they had to go get a guy at running back. and they ultimately didn't happen. Now, again, Crowell as a freshman could be that type of a guy, but it's a freshman. And then if the lineup front is struggling, what does that look like? I think you talk about Zach Arnett defense creating confusion. Like if you can get pressure and speed up a young quarterback, like that's a chance in a home environment to make something happen. Now the other side of the ball, it's going to be a big challenge. Like Bama's secondary is outstanding. Linebacker could be a little bit of a question. So it's like, okay, do you find different ways to get like Anthony Evans and a guy like Grayson Harris that we've heard a lot? Like, can your slot receivers be guys that make plays in space? Can you use the option run game to give them problems? I think that's something you're going to have to do. Like, I think it's going to have to be motion, misdirection, make those linebackers play in space. And then like D-line, the D-line ceiling is high for sure, but it's maybe not the same proven pieces.
No.
Bama's a great team, and I think they're going to win the game, I would expect. But you're right. In terms of the likely matchup for Mississippi State, this is the one where if State's going to pull an upset, it's most likely to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Just especially with the linebackers as keys. Like they lost a lot of linebacker, and then they're relying a lot on a guy that he did have some production at Virginia Tech defense. He is athletic, converted safety, but he got hurt, and they didn't specify what the injury is. So I don't know if he's from talks. He has been practicing, so that's not really a concern. But if it says undisclosed injury, he missed 3 games, so that could maybe that's something that comes up, and with a guy they're relying on a lot to play a big role, that could also be another issue.
Yeah, QB Reese, another name to watch at linebacker that they're excited about, a younger guy that was a highly rated player. But yeah, I think their defense will be really solid, but I don't know if it's a dominant unit. And offensively, yeah, man, they got questions. Now, if everything clicks, look, they're going to be awesome. It's certainly possible, but not the same proven Bama we're used to. And you also have to add in Kalen DeBoer. He went and lost at Vanderbilt and at Oklahoma when the Sooners were not very good in 2024. Yeah. Then lost at Florida State to open up last season. Like they've had some of these games.
Yeah,
Would Starkville be the next one?
It is weird because you see some of those losses, and then you're like, "Oh, okay." I think he's undefeated against Dan Lanning. He's undefeated against Sark, and then he's 2-1 against Kirby, or 1-2 against Kirby. He did beat. Well, yeah, is he 1-2 or 2-1?
He's 2-1.
Yeah, against Kirby. So there's that dynamic where they lose games where it's just like, well, how do you lose that? And that's like a new thing for his tenure, because at Washington and at Fresno State, it wasn't really like that. But I don't know, it's not Saban's Bama, and this is kind of like a bigger reflection of the SEC as a whole. It's like, you're looking around. I don't want to get too into it, and then I get back to you. Looking around, we led the whole FBS or P4 and how many total one possession games there were that whole season. So it's different SEC than what usually is. So there's opportunities for State to, I think, surprise some people. Maybe not us, but there's opportunities for State to surprise the nation.